Disclaimer. I am a podcaster, motivational speaker, and full-time counselor. And here on this platform, it is my job to talk about current affairs and trending topics that have been discussed, posted, and even floating around on social media. I do not claim to be the voice for all, nor do I claim to know it all. Therefore, remember this if you remember nothing at all. It is okay that we agree to disagree, as long as it is respectful. Every Friday at 7 p.m., I will be talking about whatever I like, and you will have the opportunity to share your voice. Now, if you can handle it, have a seat, and if you can't, feel free to exit stage left. With that being said, let the discussion begin. What's up, guys? Hey. It's your girl D from the Voice Gather Live podcast show. We just had the 5-minute countdown to start the show, which gives you time to get into queue so that you can be a part of this great conversation. That's right, guys. The 5-minute countdown is only giving you time to just get situated, get prepared for today's show so that we can all join in on this great conversation. All right, so we need to get some house things out of the way, and let me just check and see who's we got 4 people watching. So always remember to make sure you say hello so that I know that you're in the comments and that I don't forget that you are there, right? So I want to just have a brief conversation with you guys about the description right here at the bottom. And that is transracial, transsexual, white privilege, and open marriage. We may not be able to get to everything today in this conversation, but we want to just break the mold. Hello, Miss Kendra. How are you? We want to break the mold and just chime in on the conversation. Remember, it's just our opinion, right? So whatever your opinion is, let's just have a conversation about it, right? It's not going to hurt anybody. It's just an opinion. You may not look at this whole thing as through one lens. You may be looking at it through many lenses. But what I know that we need to do is just start having the conversation so that people can get comfortable with their voice. And the topics that I decided to have a conversation about is heavy topics. Marriage, so sacred. Transracial, what is that? Transsexual, why do people want to be that? You know? And of course, many of us who are not white and watch social media, the news, everything like that, white privilege. So matter of fact, I just know for sure we are not going to be able to get to all of this in one conversation. We're not. It's just not going to happen. It's not. This is going to be something totally new for many people, difficult for people to swallow, to embrace different people's opinion. It's just going to be complicated. But that's okay. We can have the conversation and still manage to make it happen. So I'm still waiting for a couple of people to get into the chat. So I saw Miss Kendra there, and we are already at 7:04. So I'm going to give it another minute. And then we're just going to go ahead and dive into the conversation, and people will get in where they fit in, right? All righty. In the meantime, I'm hoping you're doing well. All is good with you and your loved ones. The social distancing is a number, honey. Let me tell you, a new way of communicating. A whole new way of communicating. In the midst of time, I want to also remind you of, again, the house rules. So we have many things to remind us. So let's not forget the things that we need to keep in mind. 1, we want to always remember to like. Let's remember to like. It is important to like. It's important to like. And if you don't like the show at all, or there's something you totally disagree with, then it's very important for you to do what? Give it a thumbs down. But don't just give a thumbs down without telling us why you didn't like it. Just saying thumbs down could be hateration, can be you don't understand, but you want more clarity on. You want an expert speaking from the platform. You want to share your voice live on the show. It can mean a whole bunch of things. So if you're going to give us a thumbs down, tell us why you're giving a thumbs down. so that we can address it, improve on it, or just see that, yeah, that's not really support. It's just somebody's hating on the show. All right. The other thing is, remember that we are on multiple platforms, right? We are on here, YouTube, here, Instagram, here, Twitter, and Facebook. So you can follow the show on all these platforms and stay in tune to what's happening with the show. Without a doubt, you don't have to miss anything. Topics, interesting conversations, intriguing thoughts, they're all shared on these platforms, right? So use them. They're there for you to use. Okay? And also remember, we are always on this platform going to have real talk. And real talk makes people uncomfortable. But I encourage you that if you can be comfortable in your real talk, it's not your responsibility for them to get comfortable with your talk. It's not. That's too much baggage and weight to carry, so don't worry about that. Share your voice, stand on your truth, and be honest. We all have other jobs, and we have to abide and look a certain part for those jobs, and hopefully you show up to those jobs as you show up here on the show. And I understand that. So let's keep it respectful. Let's keep it inquisitive. Let's keep it honest. Not insulting. There's a way for you to formulate your question or your comment without insulting people. And if you feel that you just need to be insulting and say it like you want to say it, then okay, roll the dice and say it, and we will deal with it as it comes. All right? Okie dokie. Well, we're going to go ahead and have this conversation. So I wanted to talk to everybody about a couple of the description, right? So I was part of a great conversation on Friday after the show with a group of women who have these conversations that are thought-provoking. These conversations allow you to go, what do I really think? And what are my true views about that, right? So we were on a 3-hour conversation, and I was touched by the conversation enough to bring a part of that conversation to this platform today. And it's about transracial. And I'm not sure if you understand or know what transracial is. So I'm going to be looking down at my computer away from the camera. Hello, Kay Scrapping. I'm going to be looking down at the away from the camera, and I'm going to talk and read you some information because I think it's important that you understand where this information is coming from. So let's just look at transracial for a minute. So here's the definition for transracial. Transracial is having a racial identity or racial expression that differs from the one's race assigned at birth. Transracial transformation is the process by which a region change in racial compensation. So there is a woman by the name of Rachel Ann Dolezal, Dolezal. Rachel Ann Dolezal. Rachel is, she goes by another name, and let me tell you something. It's a tongue twister, so I'm not going to break it down, but you can look at Rachel's name, and it will bring up the name that she goes by. Is an American woman known for identifying and passing as a black woman, even though she is a European ancestry. She is a former college instructor and National Association for the Advance of Colored People. Check that. Check that. I want you to pay close attention to what I just said. Transracial is having a racial identity or racial expression that differs from the one's race assigned at birth. Racial transformation, the process by which a region changes in racial compensation. Sorry, guys. The individual I'm talking about briefly is Rachel Ann Dolezal. Dolezal. She is known by a different name. Again, you will find that because it seems more, I don't even want to break the lady's name up. She is an American woman known for identifying and passing as a black woman, even though she is of European ancestry. She is a former college instructor and National Association for the Advance of Colored People. So, what do you think about that? We're talking about racial, um, transracial. Someone born of one race, but identifying and classifying as a different race. Now that's deep. So many of you, if you look her up, you would have seen her in the news back in the day. This white woman who says that she has never ever in her life felt as a white woman. She always felt that she was a black woman trapped in a different race. Now that's heavy. I mean, literally, that's heavy. I combined a couple of things. I want to show you what I combined. I combined a couple of things because, first, this is what Rachel looks like. This is what Rachel looks like. She was a European woman now, or white woman by birth, but through high school, as an adult, young adult, as an adult, she always identified as a black woman. And in my conversation on Friday, there were people talking about this woman and how some of their conversation with other people really strike the core with a lot of women. And I believe those conversations were with women of color. And people were having such a hard time with this woman identifying as something she's not. Now, I want to ask the people in the chat, and there's a couple of us here, so let's be honest. I see Kendra like, girl, what are your thoughts about this woman changing from this to this? What is your thoughts? What do you think about this woman changing her race of a white woman to a black woman? Because another thing is, part of the conversation tonight is about white privilege. So this white woman who by her race sets her up for white privilege, she will have a more better chance, a more opportunity to walk through the door just because of her race. And she decided to opt out of this race because she never felt that she was a white woman and adapt to a woman of color. Now, you ask yourself, what is the benefit of her leaving a so-called privileged race to go to a race that's challenged just because of the color of your skin? What do you think about that? Because truthfully, we as black people, we as black women, or be it a black man, you know that it's a struggle walking in your skin just because you're black, just because you're other than white. It's a challenge. No, we didn't ask for it. No, we don't want to have to struggle every time we knock at the door just because we are not of a Caucasian race. But let's be real. It's happening to us. We see in social media all the time, every day, people of white privilege getting a leg up, and the people who are not of that race have to struggle to get the same thing. You can have the same education, come from a household of married parents, have an active father in your life. Nobody's doing drugs. You can have that in both homes, yet the color of your skin will say, will you get the job? Will you be acknowledged? Will someone treat you fair? Not take your life? We see that day in, day out. An example, the two people in Georgia who felt they had the authority to take a man's life because, honestly, it was the color of his skin. Now, how we talk about white privilege, if you reverse it for a second, and there was a father, an Afro-American father and son, felt like they were doing their civil duty, and see a white man jogging in the neighborhood and decide to, oh, he looks like the guy who was on that property where they were building at and stealing things. So we're going to jump in our car and chase him. There is no such thing as black privilege. Now, mind you, let me go back and put a little disclaimer. My disclaimer is very much this. You see my shirt. My shirt says, you can see here, allow me to explain to you why I am right. Well, I'm right because this is my opinion. Now, I'm not trying to be right for the massive. No. Remember, when I started my show in January, I said this show is about opinion. And at times, we're going to be able to bring facts because we're going to do the research. We're going to have experts. We're going to do that and have someone speak from that lens. Today, I'm speaking, I can tell you that I'm right because I have experienced people feeling that they have the right to have a leg up because just the color of their skin. I've experienced that, of course. I don't know what black person hasn't, to tell you the truth. And maybe there are people out there that have never experienced someone having white privilege around them. But I will say, I believe you have kept your eyes slightly closed and your ears slightly plugged if you've never experienced that. All right. Hello, Kofi. Hello, Rob. I see people are joining the conversation. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So getting back to, I'll look at the comments in a second. We'll take pause, look at the comments, come back to the topic. But again, going back to white privilege. So honestly, the people, all of us in the chats, all of us who are getting ready to embrace this conversation about white privilege, and we're going to jump back and forth because all of these topics are connected in some form or fashion. So, white privilege and going back to transracial. Now, let's reverse it a second. Let me take a pause. Let me take a pause. This is, you got to break this down so gentle so you guys can understand what my thoughts are. Going back to transracial, let's put white privilege aside for just a moment. Transracial. So this white woman decides to jump into, and I use that loosely, but she migrated herself into being a black woman. She changed her skin color. She changed her hair. She started braiding her hair. This is not a woman that just came out of the hood, a woman that just came from trailer park, however you want to describe that, since, people have these stereotypes for people. This woman is very educated. She's very educated. Very educated. Look her up. So ask yourself this question. Why would this educated woman who is associated to, not by she wants to, but associated to just because of the color of her race, decide to step into a race that is at a disadvantage? What was that about? Why would someone do that? Could it be that this woman has always felt other than what she was born? That ties into one of the topics in the description, transsexuals, the trans community. It all ties into, are you, as an individual, embracing what is now being so in our face? Because you got social media and everything, it's just in your face. Could you embrace your Caucasian neighbor acclimating themselves to the Afro-American culture or any other culture, Indian, any other, Korean, any other ethnicity? Could you embrace that individual moving from one race and identifying in a different race? Let me look at the comments. Absolutely, Dawn. She was treated badly by her own race. She didn't fit in. Hello, Olivia. So let me go back. Miss Kendra says, I guess it's her business, okay? But don't flip flop when times get hard. Well, based on that, Kendra, I would say that she's never flipped back to the race that she flipped from because she's never felt that she was that race. She says she's always felt that she was a woman of color. So, and she's gotten treated really bad by Caucasians, Afro American, and a lot of other people because she felt that she was not a woman of a white woman, that she felt that she was a woman of color. And that goes back to what Dawn said was she was treated bad by her own people. So to take on that, you are going to not like me. You're going to judge what I'm doing. You're going to not like that I am making myself comfortable in my own skin by making a decision that fits good for me, that works for me. And what works for me, just kind of role playing as a white woman, is that I feel that I'm a sister. I'm a black woman. I can relate to the black race. Now, when I heard this years ago, I was like, oh, well, really? Why would she do that? And I have to tell you, I wasn't mad. It could be of ignorance. It could be that I truly didn't give it a lot of thought. I did have questions, but I was not walking around angry like, I dare her. I dare her actually try to be a woman of color. And I talked to people who struggled really hard about that. And I don't know why we're so up in arms. And I want people to share, tell me, let's be honest. Why would you be so upset that this woman decided to be a different race? Why? And do you have that same outlook on the trans community? Do you have a problem with a woman who was born a female, assigned that gender at birth? So she didn't pick it, she didn't choose it. She was assigned that gender at birth. And she never felt the gender she was assigned at birth. So she's always adapted, acclimated herself to an opposite gender, meaning she saw herself as being a male. Or that can go for a baby assigned male genitalia, and always felt that this genitalia it's not right. Something's wrong. It doesn't align up. What are your thoughts? So Kendra is saying, would I be able to embrace my inner Asian? Kendra, elaborate, please. I want you to help me understand. Is that humor? Is there an inner Asian person in you that you now scratch your head and say, would I be able to embrace that part of me? What do you think? I think it's going to be, I always have to give you guys time too, because a lot of you are using your smartphones. So I know a lot of you are typing on that. Some people use computers. All right. In the interim of time, let's look at this. I want to share this with you. I'm not going to be talking as I share it, but I want you to watch this.
I don't think transracial is a thing. It's just not.
Absolutely not.
It's only a thing since we've started talking about it.
I think it's something that's kind of already been happening for many, many years. It's just not really recognized as such.
I feel like, first of all, it's appropriating terms meant for transgender people, which is completely problematic.
I can't wake up one day and say I want to be a white woman because I'm a black woman, and the societal experiences that I experience every day, another person can't just take on that whole experience.
We're not what we look like. We're who we are on the inside. So if I feel like I'm Hispanic, black, or if I'm white, then so be it.
Many people live in different cross cultures and assimilate in some regard. So like anything else, we're living in a new world now. So I think people should just be able to make a free choice of who they want to be and how they want to portray themselves or how they feel. So yeah, absolutely.
So if you want to identify as this culture, then fine. You can be an advocate for that. You can be an advocate for their causes of a specific culture, whatever, but don't be a fraud.
What do you think? What do you think what you just saw? That little video clip. What do you think about that? What are your thoughts about that video? Very interesting, Kendra. I just showed the video, so please respond to that video. My question is, what do you think? And I'm reading your comment right now. Example, when you are up for a job and you decide to casually relate to the white superior about your shared European background to get an edge up. I don't know if that works because I don't know if a black person actually I don't know if a white person, for example, this woman here, who felt that she was always a black woman, would go when she went to apply for the NAACP. My understanding was that she had not been honest about her European background, that she was not a woman of color. She actually, kind of misrepresent herself as it relates to her racial identity when she was born, that she misrepresented herself because she was not a woman of color. She was a woman who transrace into this ethnicity. Yes, Dawn. That's what I'm talking about now. At least this woman here, she did lie about her race. She was not honest when she went to apply, I guess, for the NAACP. Don't quote me, but if I remember part of my conversation, some things that I read, she was part of the NAACP and identified as a black woman. This woman did not tell anyone that she was of European ancestry and that she had trans race to the black woman that she identified as. Okay, I Rob. As long as you are comfortable with being who you are, then so be it. I agree that people should be, I guess, as free to identify as who they want to be. People need to start worrying about other things that matter more in life. Okay, Lee, I got you. I got you. So listen, um, in my conversation on Friday, when I was asked about how I felt about this woman and her decision to identify as a black woman, I have to be very honest. I believe I am an open person. I am open. I like to ask questions about things I don't understand. But I think not knowing the person, it would have been a little bit odd for me to go up to someone who finally comes out and says, you know what, I was born Caucasian, and now for 30 years, whatever amount of time, I've identified as a black woman. I would be like, why? What was it going on in your psyche? What was going on for you? How did you feel? How do you feel black? Let's go there. And I think that would be a question that I would ask. How do you feel black? How does one feel black? How does one feel Afro-American? How does one feel white? Because I'm not a white person. I would tell you that for me, when we talk about white privilege, I seen I seen people of white ethnicity use their white ethnicity to get ahead up. Now, that's not everybody. Everybody that's white, I would not say that's walking around trying to use their privilege. And I also believe that a lot of people that's white not even aware that they are using their white privilege. And there are people that are aware that I'm white and I'm entitled. I posted on Instagram, it recently came out like a couple of days, where this woman was in Central Park and a black man happened to see this woman having her dog off the leash. Now, I don't know what transpired before he posted this video, but I would tell you that he posts the video, he's recording the woman with her dog, and the woman grabs the dog by the collar without the leash being on him, choking the poor dog, honey, because the dog is squirming all around. And she's asking the man of color not to record her. And he's continually to record her. So what she does is says, I'm going to call the police. I'm going to call the police and tell them that a black man, an Afro-American man, is recording me. And she calls, and then she starts to say these things like, I'm afraid there's an Afro-American man recording me, and he's threatened me and my dog. Now, the video does not record him threatening her or her dog. But the fact that she was able to say a black man is recording me, why does she need to put his ethnicity, his race in there? And this would be seen by some people that this is white privilege. That if I scream that I am something other than black, if I scream that a white man is recording me, I'm pointing out that I just feel that I'm pointing that out because I want you to know that of their race, not because it's a man. Because she very well could have said, there's a man recording me and I am upset. I'm afraid. He's invaded my privacy. Whatever she could have said. She pointed out that it was a black man. Guys, I want you to take a pause for a second. Trust and believe that I'm not all over the place with this show, but if you look at the connections, you'll see that they all kind of tie into one another. They all tie into one another. Okay. Absolutely, Kofi. Now imagine how many people who aren't recorded, how many people who aren't on, someone got a camera in their face saying, this is what's happening. And you know, the funny thing of it is I mean, cell phones and technology, it invades our privacy, but I have to say, thank God for these electronics and things like that, because everything that people have been complaining about for so long, now you can't tell me you don't see it. You can't say you don't see it. Here is the footage. And then now they have to fight this. They have to fight that, oh, that's not really what's happening. And trust and believe there are people that's doing that. So Rob says that, well, she got fired, so I guess she wasn't that privileged. I think you're probably using some humor in that. No, she was using her privilege. She was using her white privilege. She was. Absolutely, Lee. She would easily find another job. Somebody's going to give this white woman another chance. Now, I'm going to say, I believe if it was a person of color, it would not be that easy for that person to get a job. That thing would be stained to them like they had just committed the worst crime ever. So I want to move on because, you know, again, we're talking about transracial while we're also talking about transgender and people taking on a different ethnicity, sexual identity, because they didn't feel that they were comfortable in their skin, in their body, that was not who they truly were. So I'm asking you guys as viewers, can you accept first the race? Can you accept, just type accept. Can you accept someone who is not of Afro-American descent, born Caucasian, identifying and start to acclimate themselves to that race? Could you? I mean, changing their hair, using a different language, dialect. Can I say it that way? Being able to use certain slang, just all of those different things. Could you accept that? Or would it be difficult for you to do that? Would it be difficult for you to actually have a friend who is Caucasian now saying they're wearing a hair cornrow, they're using the dialogue that we use, the language that we use, they say I'm not white, I'm like you. Could you accept that? Could you have a friend like that? Because I would tell you that for me, I want you to be your true self, but it would take me some time to truly understand. Accept, just stay out my lane. I don't know what that means, Kendra. So you can accept it but stay out of your lane. I don't know what that means. I Rob says, be what makes you happy. I don't know. And they better be respectable. Let me see, Lee. Accept. Okay, I'm looking at your comment, Lee. So accept. Oh, accept. I don't. What do you think about when they tell black girls that they are? I'm confused. I'm sorry by the question. Except, what do you think? Oh, okay. So what do I think about people telling black women, women of color, that they sound white? Well, that's just the stupidest thing. That's just so stupid. In my opinion, it's just stupid. How do you sound white? Is it the slang that you use? Because the people do the same thing. Well, you sound black. You sound like you're trying to sound black. Like, what up? Now, that way of me saying it is, I hate stereotyping, but you hear that more in the urban community. So when you hear someone Caucasian using what up, everybody's like, what? Here's an example. Tom Hanks and his wife, son Chad, I think his name is. Honey, he's all over the place. That boy bounced from one minute to the I. He tries to acclimate to the Afro-American culture, or what he think is tied to the culture. The lingo, the slang, and things like that. And then people look at him and say, but he has white privilege. I believe people have white privilege. I do. I think if you are white, you have white privilege. I don't believe that everybody tried to use their white privilege, especially when they understand about the struggle of being an Afro-American black person in today's society and from the beginning of time. And I think there's people who try to get to understand that. There's millions of people that try to get to understand the difficulty. Let's not forget that there were people that were white that marched with Martin Luther King, that believed in Malcolm X's mission. I mean, there are people that are Caucasian that really believed in the struggle and felt that white people was using their privilege. After the young man that was killed by this father and son, there was so many white people on the social media talking about how these two white people needed to be locked up, the key needed to be thrown away, and that white people need to stop expecting. Well, let's make sure that we have. Okay, that's good. That white people need to start being accountable and stop accepting their counterparts, their white race, accepting that white people can go out and kill black people. So, I just really want to see what you guys think. Like, where you guys' questions at? Like, I want to go back to Kendra's comment. She accept, but stay out of my lane. I don't know what my lane means. And they better be respectable. Well, what would identify someone being respectable? What would say that that person who is now white now identifies black and they are being respectable? Because for some people, they're saying that the fact that you're crossing over into a different race and an oppressed race, let's be clear, because the black race is still an oppressed race. It is. In my opinion, you may disagree, it's still an oppressed race. I cannot use my black race, my black ethnicity to go and get the most lucrative job based on my race. I can't. But I know that there's some white people that actually can use their race to open up the door. It just used for an example, how you would send a blonde resume. If you're asked to send your resume and your resume sounds anything of an Afro American culture, race, Lakeisha. Lakeisha doesn't sound Caucasian. Tamika, Sharonda. See, Bonquisha is way out in the ballpark. So we're not using that. We're talking about just the names I use. But Susan, Rebecca, Barbara, they sound more European, right? And those names on a resume sent blind will probably get you an interview until you show up to the interview. And now I truly believe that people are jobs are screening more because now you can't really tell beyond the name what race are they, especially like when they ask you to identify your race. Well, first and foremost, I think that should totally be off. I think it's so biased. I think that should not be a question asked on the application, because although they say they don't discriminate, we do know that people do. They do discriminate. What do you guys think? What are you thinking? Are you feeling today's conversation? Are you feeling today's topic? I mean, what do you think about that? Just reading your comments, guys. And you know the comment that Rob says about be what makes you happy. If it was just that easy, let's just point out Caitlyn Jenner for a second. We have a triathlon Olympic winner, Bruce Jenner. Bruce, the Wheaties guy, think about that. All of us are our age to remember Wheaties. But anyway, the Wheaties guy went from the Wheaties Olympia winner to Caitlyn Jenner. Married, having multiple marriages, children, and now Bruce Jenner is Caitlyn Jenner. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? Do you, we've been hearing about the trans community, the LGBTQ plus community for some time. And I think although it's very difficult for people to embrace this community, I think people are getting a little bit more open, because you can't ignore it. I think we all know someone that is from that community, LGBTQ plus whatever. We all know somebody. But I'm curious. What are your thoughts about Bruce Jenner? Because this was a conversation that was in my, when I talked to some of the women on Friday about Bruce changing his sexual identity. But then there was a question about, did he keep his private parts? Well, first and foremost, I get it for the topic conversation, because we were trying to distinguish, does an individual consider themselves woman or male if they didn't have the reassignment surgery, so forth and so on. And how do we embrace those individuals that way? And if you can answer that question, then I want you to look at that same context in when it relates to the woman who changed her race. Okay, I'm reading your comment, Lee. Okay, so Kofi, you said agree 100%. You was agreeing with Lee. I work with a transgender male, and he taught me so much about. He taught me, sorry, so much about the community. Okay. So, with those comments, ask yourself the same question. If this, let's move that over to transracial. Now, this person is white, and all of a sudden, honey, they feel, okay, I'm going to embrace my skin. So, I am going to put on who I am and show up to work with my cornrows, my Afrocentric hairdo, and I am going to, can you say dress? Present myself as an Afro American than a Caucasian person. Wow, okay. He was white and bound over the porous. I absolutely agree, Lee. So we all know that the trans community, we can imagine if you have not experienced or read the story about this woman I'm talking about, and again, I keep saying this woman child, so let me say her name, Rachel, which she doesn't identify by that name. But Rachel Ann Zoli, Zozel, okay, we know that people have been discriminated against. We know that individuals have been turned away, shunned, and all those different things. We know that. We do know that. But I'm not, and from Kofi's conversation, what Lee is talking about, they have worked with or have been in contact with someone from the trans community and learned so much from this individual or those individuals. Got it. Now, I'm asking you this question, because we know the trans community has been getting a lot of support, but I haven't heard anything about the support about transracial. And could you embrace that individual walking around, you know that they're Caucasian, walking around you, your family, your friends, using the lingo, the expressions, behaving in the manner of an Afro-American person? Would you be like, that's my boy, that's my girl, that's my sister, give them, I mean, like, could you see yourself doing that? Would you advocate for someone who wants to be transracial, that they want to not identify by the race that they were assigned to at birth, but they want to identify by the race they feel comfortable? How do you embrace that? That's the $1 million question. That is the $1 million question. Because look at this here, right here, guys. Look at this. I want you to pay close attention to this here. Because this is what's associated with white privilege. So someone leaving their white privilege to go to a race that doesn't even get respect half the time, to no privilege. I would love to have a conversation with someone who is transracial, because I would like to ask them the question. And if they watch this video later on, I would want to know what was it about the race that you felt more familiar, felt more comfortable, that you decided to give up whatever that race, ethnicity that you were assigned, that race, sorry guys, that you were assigned at birth, to step into this race and walk and get scrutinized, overlooked. Why? What was it about that? I'm hoping that the comments after this show, when people come back to this show or people come to the show for the first time, I hope that you will, if you're going to give us a thumbs down, tell us why you gave it a thumbs down. Why did you disagree? Don't give the show a thumbs down to say, I disagree that she given up her white privilege to be black. Like, giving a thumbs down means you didn't like the show. If you disagree with the woman actually sharing her voice and expressing, or him expressing they felt something other than what they were born as, post that in the comment and still give a thumbs up though. Okay, hello, Naomi. Wow, by trying to understand instead of judge. That is the key. That's really the key. It truly is the key to understanding than judging. And if you find yourself judging, how do you address that so that you can have a better understanding and not come off judging? Because I think the trans community, I think the transracial community, I think they would be more open to answering questions that many of us may have for them if we didn't put it in a way that sounds judging. Why did you cut off your penis? Why did you remove your breasts? That sounds judging. No, matter of fact, that is judging. Instead of rephrasing the question and saying, wow, okay, so you felt that you were not in the right space, the right body. You didn't identify with the body that you were in. Wow, that must have been difficult for you. I would love to understand how you were born as a female and just felt that you were a male or vice versa. I think that someone who is open, because the person you're asking the question also have to be open to answering that question. Maybe they have been through the same discrimination being a white woman or a white man and may understand that understand the black race. Okay, we would not know until we ask. Very true. We have more come early than differences. Fear keeps about. Yes. And the funny thing is that now people are talking more about this transracial thing because I'm telling you, it was the first time I was able to put a name to it. I didn't know, I didn't call it transracial. I was just like, she's white, but she's identifying as black. Right? Okay, she's identifying that she's black. Okay. I never knew what to call it. And now that there's a name for it and it allows us to do our research, do our homework. I mean, there's nothing wrong with asking the question. It's how you ask the question. And some people actually don't even want you to ask them a question. It's none of your business. So if it's none of your business for that person, I just had a thought. If I can't ask the question, then how am I to be educated? So that is for anybody coming to watch the show later on or those in the comments. If I can't ask you the question respectfully, and maybe you see it as disrespect because I'm asking the question, but understand we are unknowledge to the situation unless someone teaches us. Unless we can be in a safe space where we can ask the question so that we can start to learn how to behave better, respect better, treat fair, all those different things that would allow a person to feel comfortable being who they are. That's just my thought. I think it's easier for us to look outside the window at someone else and say, well, this is how I would embrace it. This is what I would do. This is how I feel about it. But you have to think about it from a more personal lens. What if it was your own? Dwayne Wade and his trans daughter. Zoe, I think the name is. Zoe, born a male, but felt that she was always in the wrong body. And she's what, 12? 11 or 12? And you ask yourself, how does an 11-year-old or 12-year-old know that they're in the wrong body? Well, they're human. They have feelings. They have emotions. So, Magic Johnson and his wife Cookie's their son. And I'm only using celebrities because we all have heard these names before. But if you look in your own community and you know somebody from childhood, you may be able to know someone who just did not feel they were in the right skin, be it the same right body. And we now in the 20th century, I guess, need to really start figuring out, how do we start embracing change? How do we start embracing the very thing that we scratched our heads about? I want to talk really quickly with you about, as you saw in my description, the church. We're going to wrap up this show with the church. Because remember, I said all of these are connected in some form or fashion. So the church. The church, the place where people go to feel safe, to look for guidance from their higher power. In the church, there are a lot of people who are, because sinners go to church. Let's be clear. We all who have sinned, if you go to church, you go to church because you are a sinner. And you're going to church, in my opinion, because, and well, I think you may agree, in my opinion, because you're going to look for acceptance, deliverance, healing. You're going to church for a closer relationship with your higher God or your higher power, right? And in the church, people, those same sinners who say they're saved and all those different things, and some may be saved, judge the people coming into the church, meaning the transgender community, the bisexual community, the trans race community. Those same people are judging you. And we want to talk about the church then and now. Because when I was growing up, I grew up as in the Baptist faith. And the Baptist faith, it was strict. Women couldn't wear pants. You didn't do certain things in the church. A lot of certain things that you didn't do in the church. And now, when you're talking about the trans community, the LGBTQ community, if I said the acronyms right, this community going to church, or a woman transracial going to church, and now the people of that church know that, wait a minute, you're really not that you present yourself. You are totally something else. You are a white woman. Why are you coming up in this church pretending to be a black woman or a black man? You were born a little boy, a little girl. Why are you wearing those pants or that dress? This is the church. What are your thoughts about that? Are your thoughts the same as you posted in the comments? Are your thoughts the same that, well, people are people and they should be accepted to be who they are? Is that your views? There are people that don't even go to church because the people in the church are judging. And if you follow scripture, we hear that the scripture says that we're not to judge. But people in church feel entitled to judge people coming to church. I posted on Instagram, there was a Caucasian female who had come to church. Was I guess she wasn't slim. She had some weight on her. And when she went to church, she was dressing, I guess, a couple of times what was not appropriate for this one woman. And this one woman took it upon herself to address this young lady outside in the hallway of the church and told her, don't ever get back up in the choir stand, because the woman was a singer, wearing a pair of shorts. And not because the shorts were too short, because she said that they didn't fit her. They were inappropriate. And the thing she was saying to this young lady was like, what? Now, this young girl was coming to church to worship, to use her instrument, her voice in the choir, to worship and lift up her God. And this woman felt that it was her duty to point out her clothes. I mean, people, let's think about this. Just think about it for a second. Just for a second. Again, today's topics is for us to think about the church, where it's a place to be safe and get closer to your higher power. And the trans community can't even go to the church because the church wanted to pray the gay out of them. Or they couldn't go to the church because I remember seeing something on social media some time ago where pastors in the pulpit want to make a mockery of the individual sitting in the congregation because of what they look like. And because they say, well, we know that you was this, but you trying to look like this, and we're not going to have this in our church. The trans race community, identifying that they are a different race than what they were born, And people are saying, well, you're not that race, and I dare you put on that race. And do you know what it is to be a black woman or a black man? I just know what it is to be me. And me feels black. It is something to think about. So if they can't go to church and be embraced and someone to wrap their arms around them and just support them and let God or whatever their higher power work on them so that they can figure this thing out. Oh, am I really black? Am I really gay? Am I really trans? Am I really this? Am I really that? I don't know. It's a lot for people to embrace and hold on to, but this is a deep conversation that I thought was worth kind of chiming into. I hope that you guys will actually come back to the show, because how could you leave this show with what I'm talking about today, what we're all talking about today, and not things, tap you on the temple. Nothing comes to your thought and be like, let me think about this. And then come back and post that comment, what your thought were. Those you coming back to the show counts as a rating to the show, so it helps actually. But it all also allows me to go back and look at what you commented, what your thoughts were about today's topic, and some things that you thought about, you felt comfortable sharing now, whatever. And I'm going to respond to that comment. I'm going to go right back there and post a comment. I post comments to all the new comments after the show is aired. I'll like it, I'll comment, say thank you. I'm looking at it. So I encourage you to actually not just be here for a second and then just like, oh, you just hear me talk. I like to have stimulating conversations, because I believe having stimulating conversation allow us to go, aha. And the aha really is not for everybody else. Really, guys, the aha is for you. The awakening moment is for you. And if there is an awakening moment within yourself, then those around you who are your friends, true friends, your family members that respect you, those individuals may get a ha-ha moment too. I'm just saying. I'm truly just saying. We have to, I work in the field as a counselor, clinician. So I'm exposed, I am met with many different people, and I have to keep an open mind, right? And even if I disagree with the individual, I have to open up my mind to at least hear what they're saying, meditate on what they're saying, and not be non-biased in the situation, and come from the place of where they're coming from. Not, well, you know what, well, why would you do that? And you wrong. Well, first and foremost, what makes them wrong? And what makes you right? What makes you right? Just because you say you're right, well, they're right. Something to think about. Definitely a deep conversation. I agree, Lee. Levy. I agree. It is a deep conversation, one that many people don't have because it makes them uncomfortable. But we create this space so that everybody can get comfortable and have the darn conversation with respect. And there's no question off limit on the show as long as you pose it in a way that's respectful. We can agree to disagree. We could say, I understand, I don't understand. We can. That's respect. What's not respect is you saying, I don't have a right to say I'm black or white, straight, bi, or gay. I worship, I don't worship. You don't have the right to dictate that I'm wrong. You don't have that right. And if you do think you have that right, I really encourage you to go have a seat and do some soul searching, because you don't have that right to do that. And in this conversation, we learned that we're all different. We all have different lanes in this life. We all do. They're very colorful. Some of them have some curves in them. We're just all different. And we have to figure out how to have the respect. I think, guys, if until it knocks on your door, and there's some people who actually disown, because the woman who, Rachel, and who changed her race, her parents put her out there. They were just like, no, absolutely not. There's been something wrong with her. She's been off for a long time since she was a little girl. There was just something different about her. Her family kind of just disowned her as well. And if they didn't disown her, the way they were talking, it sounded like they were disowning her, right? The trans community, fathers, mothers, family members, friends, disown those individuals who they know that, wait, Sheila, since a little girl, she's never wanted to play with dolls. Sheila's never wanted to put on a dress. Sheila never wanted bows in her hair. Sheila never wanted any of these things. Yet I'm still struggling, meaning the person, I'm still struggling that she wants to be something else. Well, she was always something else. You just couldn't see it or didn't want to see it, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. I mean, I think that some of us, when we talk about the race, there's some people who grew up with a person in school. The person didn't change their color, their race, their skin color. But they always kind of was like the brothers. They was always like the sisters. We know, I believe we all know some people like that. But when people start to change their skin color, wear their hair different, dress differently, use a different lingo, then people are like, oh, you're trying to be something you're not. Well, were they trying to be something they're not, or they're just trying to embrace who they are? And until it's in your family, your close network, you don't know what that is like until you ask the question. Transracial is not a thing, like, at all. Let's see what you said. I'm going to show your comment because it hit it. Just because you identify with black folks because you are your environment and they are race. That's not transracial. Well, Miss Mitchell, people would disagree with you because, again, this conversation, I mean, I hear you, but people would disagree with you. They would definitely disagree. But I'm glad you're sharing your truth, at least in your thoughts. Because some people would say that transracial is not a thing. It's really who they are. They didn't happen to just say, I want to be a different race. Just like some people who are assign a sexual identity at birth and say, but I was never this sexual identity that I was given at birth. I can be raised in a white community but cannot walk around saying I am a white woman. Race is a social construct. I hear you. And I believe that this woman, Rachel, was also experiencing the same thing, but from her own people and black women, because best believe, black women, black people, period, were also having a big problem with this woman identifying as a white woman. I mean, a black woman. Trust me, I get it. But this is why we're having a conversation. Miss Mitchell, could you have a white friend? I mean, a white friend that you would leave your children with. Maybe you won't leave your children with a white friend or with friends, but if this is a true friend, someone who's held you down, would you have a problem with your white friend changing their race? I asked that question because I take it you're just coming into the comments, or you were listening, you just didn't say anything early on. I don't know. I, again, before I wrap up the show, would be scratching my head because I would be scratching my head respectfully, but asking my friend, why do you want to be this race? And how long have you felt this way? I would want to know their story. Yes, Tiger Woods did say, Rob, that he was not black. He absolutely did. Yes, he did. And we've been told and taught, maybe, I don't know if you all agree with me, but we were taught that if you have any ounce of black in you, you are considered black. Right? If your father is black, your mom is black, you black. What do you think about that? Something to think about. Something to think about. I thought today's topic was very interesting, and it was worth having. We're going to actually see what people think when they watch this show later. We may get some thumbs down. That's okay. Just tell us why you're giving us a thumbs down. And we may get some thumbs up because people want to have the conversation. And if you want to have the conversation, then by all means, make sure that you subscribe to this channel. Make sure you subscribe to the channel here on YouTube. And then also make sure that you follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Befriend the show there, because this is where we're posting some ideas. We come up with topics and we bring them to the show on Tuesdays and Fridays. Let's see what they're saying here. Okay. Tiger Woods said he was bald black and half white. The same as this recent. Okay. Did he say he was half white or half Asian? That's a question for Jasmine. It would be hard for me to wrap my brain around a white friend who identifies as black. I will try to support them as best as I could. That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at, Kofi. My curiosity would be, well, I think part of my curiosity would be is because we know that we have such a disadvantage as a black race. Why are you trying to acclimate to the black race? Like, why? What is that? Like, and of course I'm not going to ask why, but what people of color go through, or you've seen what people go through that are color. What is it about you that feel that you are that, and that you can stand in that position and possibly experience those things? I would be curious. Okay, Miss Jasmine Mitchell. Transracial is identity is only another form of white privilege. Basically, what it comes down to is the only one who can say what they are is oneself. I hear you, Rob, but unfortunately, we live in a society that people think that's not true. I absolutely agree with what you're saying, Rob. It's up to everyone else to accept it or not, which is why I posed that question to you guys. I can say I'm a giraffe all day and still won't be a giraffe. I hear you, Miss Mitchell. I hear you. But wait, let me see. No, you didn't answer my question. Could you accept one of your friends? How would you handle, Jasmine, your friend, be it black or white, identifying as a different race? How would you handle that before we wrap up? Nor would you reap all the benefits of a giraffe. I get it. But could you embrace a friend? Like Kofi was saying, it would be hard for him to wrap his brain around a white friend who identifies as black. But he would try to support them. I would be offended if a white woman came to me and said she was a black woman. And why would you be offended, Jasmine? See, this is what I was, not that everybody else, your comments were great, but I knew that there are people like Jasmine, and which is not a bad thing, but there are people who walk in those shoes that was totally offended by this woman identifying to be a black woman. But let it be clear. This white woman who identifies as a black woman, she says she's a black woman, has done great things for the black community. Just look it up. I agree. Good question. Whose place is it for someone to tell you you are not? Jasmine said they would no longer be friends of hers because she would never go through what I go through as a black woman. See, that's true. That goes without saying, which is why the question becomes, why would you want to walk in the shoes of a black person? See, I know being a black person is a great thing because I don't know to be anything else. I can only imagine the white privilege. But on a serious note, people don't think about asking about someone's feelings or why they do the things that they do, such as changing self. We need to take the time to reflect and think and ask questions. I agree. Okay, so you met did you have a conversation with Rachel? Did you ask the question, why did you want to change your race? Why do you feel that you are a black woman opposed to the ethnicity that you were born in? Wow, okay. So Jasmine says when she met I'm sorry. She says that when Rachel spoke at Princeton, black people ripped into her. Of course they did, because they did not know how to embrace, accept, or ask the right question to why she would change her race. Let's be clear. I get it. I get it, Jasmine. If I'm reading your questions or your comments correctly, matter of fact, I am reading it correctly because you said you would be offended. I get it. I absolutely get it. But by me getting it, I got a question, and my question for that individual is, tell me why. Help me understand. Just because you identified as because you changed your race from a white woman to a black woman, all of a sudden, and now I got an attitude. But why do I have an attitude? Because you don't know what it is for me what it is to be a black woman and be oppressed and all those things. Yes, I get it. I absolutely get it. You don't know that because you're not a black woman by definition. I get that. I absolutely get it. But I want to have a conversation with you. Why? Do you know what you're going to go through? Born a black person, I go through that, and I'm not trying to do anything but just be. You are changing from one race to a next race, and you're going to be judged on that. Why would she subject herself to being judged? Why would she go through all the scrutiny that she went through? She could at no point speak on why she wanted to be a black woman. Black women was outraged of her, of it all. They did ask the right questions. Once again, it was Princeton, all intelligent individuals. Well, everybody at Princeton, I wouldn't say is intelligent, Jasmine. I get what you're saying, but I don't think everybody that goes to a Ivy League college or any kind of is all that intelligent. That's like saying that everybody that go to church is all that saved. No, they're not. I absolutely disagree. But I am so glad that you came on because you are sharing from a black woman's perspective, which is what I wanted to hear from as black individuals, because we have Latino in our comments, we have Afro-American in our comments. I don't know what other race we have in the chats, but I wanted people to share their opinions. If there was some gain of her to be black, That's one thing, but there was no gain from it. I agree, Rob. Why would she take on this race? Because we know that as much as there's rich in us and people don't want to recognize it, to take on being black, she's taking on a strike from some people's definition. See, I know it's an honor to be a black person. There's an honor for someone to want to be a black person. There is. Privilege doesn't come with it because I don't know about any black privilege. I don't go to Princeton, but I was there. The individuals there asked all the questions you are asking. It was once. It was really happening. Some of the details are off. Okay. I'm hoping that you guys won't just leave this conversation here, but you will actually, something would spark a thought. You'll go back and post the comments. Just understand that you may not be able to post to the live comments, but you can still post the comments once you looked at the live comments. So please do so. What was there to gain? Have you not seen the amount of publicity she gained? The TV shows, the sites and colleges, she gained a ton of publicity. But the publicity came with judgment. It wasn't publicity that gave her such... and she was a smart woman before she started identifying as a black woman. So she just educated herself more to the black race, Jasmine. And she's still being judged today. Let's be clear. She's still being judged on identifying and recognizing herself as a black woman. So it hasn't opened up any doors for her. People, when she was affiliated with the NAACP, she was being judged there, although she was doing good things for the community. But because she was a white woman identifying as a black woman, those good things that she was doing for the community were people didn't want to recognize them because it was being done by someone who they felt was not who they say they were. All right, my people. Interesting conversation. Real talk, real talk. I want to thank each and every one of you for being such a great participant in the show. I want to, now that we're at the end of the show, let me just put some things out there. Again, the show is growing. It's evolving. Sometimes I feel like it's moving so fast and I want to do things perfectly. And sometimes it's not moving fast and things are looking kind of questionable. So understand we didn't have any internet issues. Woohoo! Yes, we didn't have any internet issues because we tried something different tonight from last week and it worked. So we'll be doing that moving forward. Hopefully nothing happens. So the internet was great. Remember, please always, 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 always like, comment, and subscribe to the show. Please don't just watch this show. Every one of you have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or something. Click the share button and share it to that site. And then tell people to come on over to the show and have a conversation with us. Let them get involved. Tell them to subscribe. Tell them that this show is growing and we just talk about it all. Again, also, you see me looking around. That's because I'm managing everything. And I thank you for bearing with me because I'm looking at your comments over there. I'm also looking at you because I want to look you dead in your eye and just have that right on face conversation with you. And then I'm looking down because I need to move things around this screen. So thank you so much for being patient with me with the show. Thank you for the comments, guys. Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you, Kofi. Thank you, Rob. I don't recognize you enough, but I'm glad that you talked more. So thank you, Rob. Thank you, Naomi. You're always awesome. And everybody else, Dawn, and everybody else who came to the show. Thank you so much, and I will see you next week. So as always, remember, be good to one another. Treat one another with respect. Because, honey, respect is the key. And always remember, love is all we got. So that's what I'm giving you. Until next time, bye. Now get out of here.